And we're live.
Look at that.
I think I always have to do that now from here on out.
Yeah, it's your catchphrase, I guess.
Yeah.
And we're live.
And we're live. Well, hello YouTube. We're down a man, as you can see. We're not half the man we used to be. Ryan is in Florida. No, he's not. He's not in Florida.
He's not. He's not in Florida.
On the other
not
side.
at all.
The other side. He's in Hawaii. And
the opposite way.
Also going to be in California this weekend. So we're going to get snow here. I don't know if you guys are supposed to get snow there in Texas, but we're supposed to get some this weekend.
Don't think we're getting snow, but we're definitely getting cold. Lots of cold coming our way.
Awesome.
So yes, we're planning on going to see Scream this weekend.
Oh.
At a drive-in. So we'll be nice and cozy in the Tesla, keeping that all warm around us as we're watching Ghostface knocking off people.
All right then.
Nicole.
Well, cool.
Nice. It'll be nice.
Very nice. Okay. Well, cool. Well, we're just kind of waiting to see if anybody's gonna jump on here. So far I don't see anybody, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and we're gonna talk about BattleBots tonight. So strap in. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Yes.
All right. Let me get my notes ready and everything. That's important.
Yes, we are prepared. We are prepared tonight. Ryan's not here. We're like all like set.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to read everything though. It's mostly notes just to help me know what to say. Help us know what to say.
That's fine.
So, all right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I'll count us down, and we'll do the intro and do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna be fun. You're gonna like this. All right. Okay. 3, 2. Hello and welcome to iamGEEK. This is episode 222. I'm Katrin, and tonight I'm joined by the guy who animated a tiger. And if you say animation is easy, you'd be a liar. He made Chipmunks move and Yogi Bear groove, and when he walks into a room, he brings the doom. All of his work is first class. It's Chris! Yes. You didn't know I was going to do that.
I did not know you were going to do that. Oh my goodness, that made me tear up with laughter. Oh, that was great. Farouk would be proud.
I hope so. Because that's the whole goal of this, is we want to get him on the show, right?
Oh, definally. He sees Farouk. That, he's going to be like, this guy can do this. I gotta meet this guy.
Well, if you haven't guessed already, we're talking about BattleBots. And we were watching today with my son, and I was telling him the history of it and about Robot Wars, and I kept trying to say Robot Wars when I wanted to say BattleBots, and I was like, I don't do that tonight. But anyways. Thank you all for listening. Tonight, Ryan is off. You'll notice it's just Chris and I. And he's on another Disney adventure. He's in Hawaii at the Aulani Resort. Yes. And he's on his vacation with his sweetheart, his wife, on their honeymoon.
It is his wife. Okay.
Yes.
You said sweetheart.
His wife, yeah.
Threw me there for a second.
And I always want to say they're on their honeymoon, but they're on their anniversary trip. This is their 20th anniversary, right? 20 years.
Yeah.
So they wanted to go to Hawaii. They have DVC points, so it's easy for them to stay there, or easier, not super easy. But they're doing that. Then when they head back this weekend, they're going to Disneyland. So if you are in the Disneyland area, or you can get to Disneyland, and you can make it to Batu West, as they say. You want to try to find him because he's got a new kyber crystal that is going to change everything. He's only shown this to a few people, including the two here. Very few people have seen this thing. And he's figured something out with the crystals. and it's going to blow your mind and change the way you do things when you use your lightsaber. So you'll want to either see him at Disneyland, or you can follow along on Instagram. So he'll be on Facebook and Instagram and showing some pictures, maybe some videos. So you'll have to check it out. It's gonna be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, enough of that guy, because he's off having fun, relaxing, and
forget him
on the island, as they say, right? The big island.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. But sure, but we're here. So Chris, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine.
Good.
Fine. Yeah, I'm
good.
Happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
I'm excited for some BattleBots.
Me too. It's one of our favorite shows here at iamGEEK, and they just started a new season on Discovery and Discovery Plus. So it's BattleBots. And before we get into talking about the current season, let's talk about the history of BattleBots. And I don't know, do you remember watching the show on Comedy Central a long time ago when it started there?
I do, and I always thought it was weird that it was on Comedy Central.
It was very weird. Yeah.
Because the Sci-Fi Channel was a thing at the time. They had Sci-Fi Channel. You would think that's where you would find BattleBots, but no, it was on Comedy Central for some reason. Yeah, that was always odd to me.
It was, but the interesting thing about that is that back then, back in the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, the late 1900s, as they say. Right? Those channels were actually showing content that made sense to their channels, like music television. MTV played music videos, right? That was when they started kind of backing off on them a little bit, I guess, in the 90s. But then like TLC, the Learning Channel, had things you learn about, right? And then Discovery had things you discover and learn about, and sciencey things, and
Sci-fi was actual history.
Yeah, showed actual history, and then A&E was arts and entertainment, right? So now all of those channels just show things that don't really make sense. But to your point, Comedy Central was funny things, right? Saturday Night Live reruns, or skit comedy shows at least.
Yeah, Kids in the Hall. Yeah, like various stuff like that. South Park, I think, was starting up then, and everything. Yeah, it was all like strictly comedy.
Yeah, the only thing that was kind of similar, but it was still a comedy show, was The Man Show. Did you ever watch The Man Show?
I didn't. I know of it. I don't know. Maybe I was just I was young then.
Yeah.
When it was coming on, and it was one of those shows like, I don't know, I should be watching this.
I should be watching. Yeah, it was a little questionable, but it was kind of funny. But anyways, the idea was they wanted to bring this show on because they thought that it could work there, and they before it was on Comedy Central. So let's back up a little bit. Before it was on Comedy Central, there was a show called Robot Wars. And Robot Wars was a British show that where they fought robots. It's in the late 90s, and Comedy Central has decided, let's make an American version of it. So, but before that, actually, I'm sorry, Comedy Central did start it. There were two events. One of them was in Long Beach, California, in 1999, and they had a live event that was streamed online. Which, when I read that, I was like, that was in '99. They streamed events online. I don't really know what that means, but
it was very laggy.
But there were 40,000 viewers, which isn't a lot. But later that year, they had another live event in Las Vegas that was actually only available as pay-per-view. So they had more viewers, and it was more successful. So that's when in that year, I guess, Comedy Central said, let's pick that up. And in the year 2000, on August 23rd, they they premiered on Comedy Central, and they wanted to bring this in, and they didn't just have the battles, right? It wasn't just like a wrestling show, because we'll talk about what BattleBots is in a minute, but it wasn't a fight show, right? They had sketch comedy involved, and then they tried to get super hot babes, is what the quote I read was, to make it interesting to people, And yeah,
is robots battling each other not interesting enough?
Not interesting enough.
Babes.
Right. You need really hot babes, right? So, but one of the co-producers wanted to not do that. They wanted, I guess, semi-attractive, nerdy girls to be on there and be able to talk about the robots, But everybody else just wanted to have like Carmen Electra on the show.
She was everywhere in the 2000s.
Yeah. So yeah, so they try to add comedy into it so it could work with Comedy Central and have this kind of over the top battle show, right? So it didn't last too long. It lasted for actually 5 seasons, but only 2 years. I thought that was interesting. It was like it was in its 5th season and it was only 2 years old. Because nowadays a season is, it may be only 8 episodes, but that's all you get in that 1 year, right? Of any show, right? I mean, that was I thought that was kind of crazy because it shows the time we were in, right? We were watching shows that lasted all year just about, and they had breaks now and then, but they lasted a long time,
And if it was for that year, like it would start at like pretty much kind of in the summer, beginning of the school year, a show would start. It would go through until about summer was starting again, and then they would throw in shows during the summer that were just like filler shows while they ran reruns of everything else. So basically, like if you're watching the season Friends, you would watch, it'd be like season 5, you're watching it, and then it hit summer, and they would just start it over again. You watch season 5 again over the summer if you missed anything,
right?
Because we didn't have like all the DVRs and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like they had a bunch of content and they had all these stories that they could write, and sitcoms and television have been around for a long time already, but in the 80s and 90s, that was the boom, right? All of the TV shows, the sitcoms were the big thing, right? And there were tons of stories to write. And I guess that's the problem now is that you've kind of run out of content, of things to write. And that's why reality TV is really taken off, because it writes itself in some ways, and people are crazy.
It's a lot. I believe it's probably cheaper to make for a lot of it because they have writers still, but it's not like you have to plan everything. That they want the unexpected in those shows.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah. So, anyways, the Comedy Central kept it for about 2 years, and they dropped it. They got bored with it. So then in 2015, so from 2002 to 2015, we didn't have any BattleBots, right? But ABC picked it up in 2015 and revived it, and they had it for 3 seasons. But when ABC picked it up, there were new commentators. I didn't mention the commentators that were on the Comedy Central version. I don't remember who they were.
I don't even remember.
The names kind of sounded familiar, but I was like, it doesn't really matter. It's not what BattleBots is today, right? And I didn't realize this in 2015. That's when we picked up Kenny Florian of UFC fame, which I don't watch UFC, but he's a big UFC guy apparently. And then Chris Rose, who was on the NFL Network, and they've been on the show since 2015, and then also Farouk was there as well. I don't remember all of this, but I do remember watching it when it got picked up, on and off, because it was hard to find it. And I guess I feel like I never remember to watch it, And it's so much easier now to watch that stuff because it's like, well, I'll just queue it up on the app, find it or whatever. Yeah. But they are what we know as the commentators and the voices of BattleBots. So like Farouk Tawhid, I hope I said his name correctly. And the thing is, I don't know if you've seen him on other shows, but there's a show called, I believe it's called Roots, something like Roots of something, I can't remember. But it's he goes around and gets with families to find out their roots, and talks with them, and he's real calm and not the same person, and he ends up they help that family or do something like that. I don't know, but it's about family, and he seems like a great guy, and it's again a totally different person. Then he comes over to this show, and he's this ring announcer that announces, kind of like I did at the beginning of this episode, each of the contestants, and he makes the show for me as well as the commentators.
He's great. Like yeah, every intro is just so different and so fun, and he just really plays it up.
Yeah.
And I have to wonder, is he writing all these things he's saying, or I mean, I'm sure they have some staff writers and stuff, but it
Yeah.
just seems like it just really flows from him so well.
It does, and today I spent time studying when we watched it how he spoke, and I practiced the thing I did at the beginning, your intro, and I tried to make it sound as much like him as I could, and of course I got a little bit nervous reading it, but it still worked out. It was fun.
That was great.
Um, but it's somebody we'd love to have on the show. So if you're listening, Farouk, please come on to the show, and we'd love to interview you and talk about your life and how you do what you do and what makes BattleBots so great. So, anyways, so now that we got the history of the show, why don't you tell us, Chris, what is BattleBots?
What is BattleBots? Well, BattleBots. I mean, we've kind of gone over a little bit, but basically, to sum it up, it's a robot combat competition that takes place in an elimination style tournament, where designers build, operate, and battle their destructive robots until a champion is crowned. And basically, when it starts out, there's about 60 competitors or whatever, and each of them go through like 3 matches, and based off their win ratio and points scored and everything throughout those battles, they go to the 32 winner take all bracket, and that's the typical like sports bracket that you'd see, where it's like one match and you're out, or you move on until whoever wins the was it the golden nut or
It's
the big nut?
the big nut, I guess. It's a
The big
big
nut. I don't think it's golden.
no, it's silver looking, which is funny because you think gold is what you usually get when
Yeah.
you're the winner, right? But it's a big silver. It's a giant nut, which
Yeah.
I guess they are silver, right? They're not gold.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
whatever.
It makes sense.
I guess so.
Why not? But yeah, I mean that's basically it. I mean each competitor like builds their own robot. There's usually teams. They're usually sponsored by Autodesk. Um,
Yeah.
it seems about
That
every
yeah, that's the
team
big
is sponsored
sponsor
by
of the
Autodesk.
show, right? Is
Yeah.
Autodesk, and they Autodesk is like design tools, right? They're a big.
Yeah.
That's who makes the big CAD tool that people use, the computer aided drawing. Is that what that's saying? I don't know, but
Yeah.
drafting, I guess. So that they help them probably in what they call the pits. There's this big room where they all get to work on their robots in their little sections together, um,
Hmm.
and if you've not ever watched this show, and I encourage you to do so, but when you think of a robot, you usually think of something that's walking around, right, or moving around, or
Yeah.
or
Johnny
like
Five.
Johnny Five, yeah, stuff like that. So these are really low to the ground. They've got wheels usually,
Hmm.
and they have some kind of weapon on them. There's different types of weapons. There's the wedge is one of the weapons. There's a
Hmm.
drum or vertical spinner, as they call it. Then there's
Hmm.
a lifter or a flipper, where they can actually get underneath a robot and flip it up in the air, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
Launch it in the air. Yeah.
A crusher, which is where there's an arm that comes down and crushes down on top of the robot,
Like a
and
hammer or
yeah,
something.
like
Yeah.
a hammer or something like that. And they're coming up with new ways. Oh yeah, and then the horizontal spinner is a big one as well.
Yeah. Hmm.
And this season, in fact, and we'll talk about this season a little bit more in a minute, but they're coming up with new ways to new weapons or new ways to use the weapons too.
Hmm.
So it's interesting, and
Yeah.
also what they've started doing in the last 2 years is adding multiple weapons or having multiple weapons on their robots instead of
Yeah.
just that one thing, not a one trick pony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. A lot of them they'll interchange their weapons. It's kind of based on who they're going to be fighting. So they kind of research who they are going to fight and
Yeah.
kind of how they operate their robot, and then we'll switch up their weapons to kind of compensate or outmaneuver the
Yeah.
other one a little bit better. And then also in the past few years, it may have been when they started on ABC, they started allowing little mini bots
Yeah.
and stuff, which A lot of times they don't do much of anything.
No. Except for today. I mean, it was the one that was on YouTube that one of the extra episodes. They had the one that actually helped the other person attack the other, or not the other person, the other robot attacked the other robot.
Yeah, mostly the little ones are trying to get up underneath the wheels and stuff of the opponent to try and trip them up. And then they've also, I haven't seen it this season, and I don't think I saw it that much this last season, but drones. They started allowing drones.
Flybots.
Yeah, flying robots a little bit.
Yeah, I saw that in the rules, and I guess I hadn't seen that too much, but I saw that there were flybots, and that they have, of course, all these specifications of how big they can be and things like that. But
yeah, because overall, like your bot and the mini bot have to add up to a certain weight or whatever.
Yeah.
But typically the drones, they try to put like flamethrowers on them.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one work very well to do any damage or anything.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun every now and then to see them mix it up.
It is. It's interesting. One of the robots, Kraken, which is a chomper, I guess, it has a bot that looks like a narwhal, and it doesn't do anything. Like it has a this big horn or whatever that is, that narwhals have, and it doesn't do anything except annoy the other person probably.
Yeah. It gets run over by both bots, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost looks like it runs around by itself. A lot of those mini robots, there's no real control on them, it seems like.
Well, typically, at least from what I've seen, the mini bots are controlled by, like, if the people have kids, like the team have some kids on there, they'll give like a little mini controller to the kid to drive the little mini bot around.
Yeah,
exactly. They can participate.
Right. Yeah, it gives them something to do, right? Yeah. But one of the things I really like about the show is it gives an outlet to us geeks and nerds, right? It gives them a chance to show what they can do and make them feel like a rock star, or even like a professional wrestler or a boxer or something like that, because they go to great lengths making these introductions like we saw earlier, and and really build it up. And it's more so on the television broadcast of it, it seems. But they do all these photo shoots with them and these video shoots that they show between the fights and all this, and it really builds them up, and some of them really get into it and play the part. They look like that rock star and they get into it, and they are intimidating in some ways, or they're just having a lot of fun. And then there's some that are just there, but
yeah.
The writers probably make up some of that drama with, like they do in wrestling,
I'm sure.
Because they make it look like these guys are at each other's throats, or they really hate this guy, But
yeah, they always kind of they'll pick kind of a villain of the season almost, or whatever. It's typically about like a couple people, the same kind of couple people who really like to play it up and just enjoy themselves. Yeah, I don't know. I lost my thought there.
Yeah,
but it was fun.
Yeah, so there are a couple of robot teams that I think really like to play it up, like the Mad Catter. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He looks like he looks like a wrestler, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and except for he doesn't have the long hair, but he has the look. But he'll act just like him in some ways. I think that's who he kind of personifies. Right?
And a little bit of Macho Man as well.
They do. People have put his face on Macho Man Randy Savage's picture, and they hold it up on posters and things.
I don't watch wrestling. I'm not one for like sports and competitive shows necessarily like this and everything. But I mean, it's robots, and it's robots fighting robots, and that really draws me in. I can't help but get pulled into this kind of thing. It's really fun.
It is. It's fun, and like I say, there's a few that really get into it, and try to be that villain, like Tombstone and Hydra. And really, I guess it's not the robot that's being the villain, but the guys that drive them are the villains, and people
like eyes on the robot.
Yeah, and people think of those as the heel or the bad guy of the season, and then but those guys have been losing lately, so it's they're not so much the threat anymore. It's becoming these younger guys that are coming in with the new things. So all right, well, you talked earlier about the size of the robots. They actually have a limit of 250 pounds, And the flybots can be up to 20 pounds, and then 10 pounds, and then those mini bots can be up to 20 pounds. But you can't make it any bigger than 250. And there are some caveats, like if you make it a certain style, it can be a little bit bigger. Like that one, do you remember the one? I think it was last year. It looked like a walker. Had all these legs underneath. It was green.
Oh yeah, that I forget the name of that one, but it's an older one that it had wheels before, and they decided to try this like walker style.
Yeah.
And it didn't work very well.
No, it was really slow.
It was really slow.
I don't even remember the weapon on it, but it was fire. I think it was just fire. So that
I think it had like a almost like a hammer type thing to it.
A crusher.
Yeah. But yeah, it was so slow. It was like I think it was at the limit of 250 pounds. Definitely.
It was, but that was one of the caveats though, is if it's a walker like that, it can weigh more. I don't know why that's different. But that thing, you couldn't move it, but it also just couldn't move itself. It was the bad thing.
Yeah, they had a lot of problems with that one, I believe.
But I looked at what makes that, how much these cost, right? How much does a robot cost? If I wanted to get into this, how much would it cost? And obviously these people that are building these are not doing it alone. They have sponsors, and the people that drive them aren't necessarily putting their own money into it. They're probably putting some into it, but they're the brains behind it, and they get to drive it, right? But I wanted to know how much they cost, and then how does that made up? So it's $25,000 on average for a 250-pound robot. That's a lot of money. That's a nice car, right? Or it's probably not as expensive, as it used to be, right? But or more cars are more expensive than that than they used to be. But so what makes up that $25,000? Are $2,000 to $8,000 are raw materials, and $3,500 to $10,000 are the components. So all the motors and gears and switches and magnets and tanks and all this. And then prototyping is $5,000 to $10,000. So that's just prototyping is just trying to make it look what it's going to look like and what it might do. What it might, how it might work. So that's not even the working robot. But.
Yeah, and I mean, and then once these matches are done, some of these are pretty much scrap metal by the end of it. And so they've got to almost completely rebuild a lot of this. Right. So they've got to have all the extra parts and almost like a separate robot.
Another robot. Yeah. Well, yeah. So there's batteries in there too, and that's one of the things that gets damaged a lot during battles. They've got to make sure there's armor that can protect those batteries, but do it in a way that doesn't make it too heavy. Because if one, you've got a limit of 250 pounds. Which is super heavy, right? But two, you don't want it too heavy so it can be fast. So there's this balance you've got to find between making the armor good enough, but also making it effective and strong, right? Because even the weapons that they use can be heavy. Like the blades that they use are super heavy and strong. And then, of course, all those, again, materials, or not necessarily materials, but the components that make the whole thing work can get heavy as well. And expensive. The most expensive one, I had to look this up too because I was curious, but is Hypershock, and it cost around $50,000. Which is a lot of money. It is one of the nicest looking bots that's out there. Like it looks really nice. And it does okay, but it doesn't perform as well as a lot of the others. I think at one time it was one of the ones that was good or did well in the past, in the old days, because there's a lot of people that do these fights that have been around for a long time, since maybe not since the Comedy Central days, but maybe I'm not sure.
Some of them are. The guy that's like what they call the Ghost Whisperer, or not the Ghost Whisperer, the Robot Whisperer on there. He's kind of like a side commentator. Yeah, he's on there. He's from the beginning, I think, from the beginning. And he had a bot called Ronin.
Okay.
That he battled with, and now he's kind of like retired from that. He's moved on to actually just like commentating and about the robots and kind of being on the field with the builders to see what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. He's got some good insights on those robots, and that I think that helps to really bring people in, because a lot of this stuff is, you think that you understand those robots, but then when you actually watch it and then you hear them talk, you're like, wow, there's so much that goes into these things, and
Yeah.
that makes these work, and
And then
especially mine.
when they're in there with the bots and everything, like you can see the size comparison next to a human, and these things,
Yeah,
they're giant, some of them.
right.
It makes me wonder, like in like a robot, no, a zombie apocalypse, if one of these guys like just took his robot out and just like, it feels like they can mow down a lot of zombies with these things.
Yeah,
I kind of want to see that in a zombie show,
it
like
needs to be.
a
Yeah.
BattleBot builder. Yeah.
So we talked about weapons earlier, but there obviously all kinds of different ways you can do. Um, they're trying to figure out new ways, I should say, to make these robots better and stronger, and again, combining weapons. So there's some that actually have vertical spinners, and maybe there is one robot that has a vertical spinner in the front, and then in the back they have
Hmm.
a horizontal spinner. I forgot who
Yeah.
it is, but I thought that was
Hmm.
really interesting. There's some really odd ones too that have not really worked too well, but they're fun to watch.
Hmm.
I listed a few here, like Huge. Huge is a very large. It's huge bot that has large wheels. Like, there's a certain width and height that these things have to be. Mostly width. It has to fit in an 8x8 box. Okay,
Hmm.
which is pretty big, but it's still, it limits you. That's good. But Huge has these wheels that are 2 times the height most of the time, at least 2 times the height of most of the robots. So the thing sits up super high, and it has this blade that spins vertically in the middle of it, and it allows it to kind of roll over another bot. So the bot is in the middle of the two wheels, and then hit it with its blade is the idea, right?
Hmm.
And one of the opponents that he had last year actually figured out a way to stop him. We talked about earlier how they have different weapons that they can add and to try to combat these different robots. And Hydra, the driver of Hydra, figured out that he could add this bar, this like I don't know what you call it, big bracket on it, and it
Hmm.
would basically push Huge around. You've got to see
Yeah.
this to really understand what we're talking about. But it was just this big,
Hmm.
huge bar that he could really just push him around, not even do anything to him except push him against the wall. And he
Hmm.
controlled him and
Yeah.
was able to win, I think. So.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's a scoring to it. Like control is like up to 3 points, damage is up to 3 points, something like that. So I mean, there's different categories to score in, and basically, yeah, he controlled the match. There wasn't any real damage done,
Yeah.
but he won all the points for the other categories. Yeah, there's a lot of them that are just shaped weird and done weird stuff. There's one, when I was looking into this again, on past like things. There was one called, where was it? Tentamushi.
Oh.
And I'd forgotten about this one, but I remember seeing it and was like, this is like, really? But basically, they used a saw as their main weapon, and it was in the middle. But then they had this big, so those like little sand things that children play in, and a lot of times they had like tops that you could put on them. A lot of them shaped
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
alligators and stuff.
Yes.
Well, it's like basically they took the ladybug top off of that
Okay.
and then put it on top of their robot as like a capture device.
Oh
So
my.
basically their plan was to basically run into the other robot, drop the ladybug lid, and keep it inside with the saw blade
Oh.
as much as they can. It never really worked. But it was fun to look at.
Yeah. It, yeah, those always kind of crack me up. The ones where they try to make it interesting looking. Like, we watched one of the videos on YouTube. So they they've really updated their YouTube channel recently, and they'll play some extra fights on YouTube, like on Sundays, or you can pay early on a different uh, somewhere else. I can't think of where it is, but you can pay to watch some of these extra matches, or you can wait till Sunday. So we wait till Sunday. But also they have some old fights there, and ones that never aired. And you find out why they never aired, because they're terrible. One of them was a Black Widow, and it spider robot, right? It had a cover that looked like a Black Widow, and I don't even know what it did, except there was fire coming out of the back of it. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't supposed to do that, but it got destroyed. It was terrible. I felt bad because it looked like a family, and I was like, wow, okay. But it's, but yeah, there's one that's called Ribot, which is a good robot, but it has this, or in previous years, because it's different this year, it looks like. Previous years had like this foam covering on it that made it look like a frog, right? So it was kind of weird, and it was like, that's silly to have all that on there, but it was still a good robot, you know.
Yeah, there's one shaped like a metal shark
that one was interesting.
It spit fire.
It was articulated too, which was the cool thing, is that it could use its tail.
So yeah, there's a lot of fun designs, not necessarily great designs, but fun designs.
Yes.
People that just want to come in and have fun with it.
Yeah. Another one is Kraken. We mentioned him earlier, and he looks like the head of Kraken. Well, looks like I guess a dragon or some kind of sea monster. You know.
Yeah, it's like a sea monster. Yeah.
It's a crusher type. So we didn't talk about crusher types too much, but crushers have an arm on top that squeezes their opponent. So just what it sounds like, it crushes the enemy, right? And this one has two very long, large teeth that sink into its opponent and try to burst the batteries. And I think he did that last year. He was able to get into the back of somebody and blow them up.
Yeah, he hasn't done too well, but last season he actually did pretty well. And it's got the sharp teeth. Basically, they're trying to just bust into the other robot, and you can grab something and hold on to it for like a minute or so. Like not, I mean, I don't think it's a minute, but a certain amount of time, and you can drag them around, push them into stuff, but then you have to let them go. Yeah. And that's basically one of his. I haven't seen a lot of success with those types.
No.
But he did pretty good last season. So.
Yeah, the thing with the chomping or the crushing robots like that is that they have to build up the power to be able to crush down onto something, and it's slow, right? It's not a quick movement. But it's a very strong movement when they can do it. And it's impossible to break, and it can be very destructive, but it's so slow. So, but it's fun to watch them. Another very interesting one is one called Smee, and Smee goes beyond the size, or hits right at the width limit, I believe. You still have to well, let me describe, I guess, what it looks like. So most robots, we didn't get too much into this, but most of the robots are kind of a square shape, and a rectangle shape or something like that, and they're very, very low to the ground, and maybe half a foot tall. I don't know. Maybe they're about a foot tall. I don't know. They look smaller on TV probably than they really are, But they're really low to the ground, and one of the styles is a wedge, and a wedge allows the bot to get underneath the opponent and flip it up into the air, or maybe not just flip it into the air, but just kind of roll it over or bang it into something, So Smee is a wedge type, right? And it's so it's not just Smee like SMEE, it's SMEE with a lot of E's, because Smee is very wide, and it's weird because it's kind of a chained robot, I guess you'd call it. Like it has
it's like a chain or like a snake that moves sideways.
So it's this. Think of a line or that's in front of you, and it just moves forward and backward and kind of. It can fold up, right, and it can swing around and kind of trap its opponent in or do something like that. I don't.
Yeah, it's supposed to kind of like wrap around on both sides, and I think it's got like something on either side that like a weapon that kind of hits it. It's really funny looking.
It's interesting. The one earlier we were trying to think of that has the walker is called Chomp. I have it written here, and it's
Chomp. Okay.
Yeah, that's the name of it. So I don't remember why it's called Chomp, but I think it did have a weapon that was a crusher.
Yeah, it's got like a
Yeah. So so do you have a favorite kind of robot, a favorite type, or even a favorite robot that you like to watch or cheer for?
Well, yeah, I kind of answer both that, I guess. I tend to like the horizontal spinners
Okay.
a lot. The vertical spinners are cool too. The vertical spinners are good for like really hitting something and launching in the air. The horizontal spinners just they tend to do a lot of damage
Yeah.
with their stuff, and yeah, probably. So it's kind of split a little bit. I have a favorite robot, but then I have a favorite robot driver,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're different. Like probably my favorite robot is Tombstone to watch.
Okay.
Uh, they play him up as a bad guy or whatever, but really, when they interview him and stuff, he's just having a good time,
Yeah.
and everyone seems to be very friendly with him. No one seems to actually hate him or anything. But basically, like when he loses, it tends to be because his bot has so much power to it
Yeah.
that it breaks itself.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Or yeah,
energy that's coming from his bot because so
yeah.
he's a horizontal spinner. So he has this
Hmm.
blade that's in the front that's a couple inches thick and it's
Hmm.
probably 2 or 3 feet wide or long, I guess I should say, and it
Yeah.
spins in front of the bot basically.
Hmm.
But to build up that speed, it creates again a lot of energy, and if it once it hits something, it can go flying and injure
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. Like when these things start going at full speed, a lot of them sound like a plane taking off.
Yeah.
Uh, and like the floor is like this like hard rubber or whatever, and they'll
Yeah.
take chunks out of the floor. The battle box itself that this thing is taking place in is like bulletproof glass, like super thick or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes when things get broken off these robots, they'll hit the glass and take a big chunk out of it.
Yeah. That's the best.
And yeah, and they like scare the crap out of
Yeah.
the commentators.
That's when
But
you know you
yeah.
have a good fight is when things fly
Oh
into
yeah.
the windows.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I like Tombstone's matches a lot because
Yeah.
there's lots of things flying everywhere typically. And it always, for the most part, I believe, ends in a knockout.
Yeah.
um, it's just really fun. But yeah, that's Ray Billings. He's the driver for Tombstone.
Yeah.
But like, probably my favorite like robot driver would have to be Donald Hudson
Okay.
with Lockjaw.
Lockjaw. Yep.
He's been in BattleBots probably since the beginning.
Yep.
And he just seems like just a super nice guy. He's like one of the best drivers
Yeah.
in the game. He's always very humble or whatever if he's winning or losing. And he just seems like I kind of want to hang out with that
Right.
guy. He seems fun. He seems
Well,
nice.
you kind of feel sorry for him though because he does put a
Hmm.
lot of work into it, and he's probably very intelligent. I mean, all these guys are super
Hmm.
intelligent. And what's funny, I guess, kind of a side note is, um, I was thinking about this is that they're all super intelligent, but you wouldn't necessarily think that if you saw them on the street, right? If you saw the guy
Yeah.
from that drives Hydra, you'd think he looks like a jerk and just like a he
Uh-huh.
probably doesn't have a good job or something. I don't know. You think poorly of him, I guess. I don't know. In some ways, he wears his hat backwards. He doesn't seem like a
Oh,
nerd. All this
backwards
stuff.
hat. Yeah.
Yeah, but he is. He's probably this really super intelligent guy and probably makes lots of money. Doing something. And
Hmm.
um, some kind of engineer, I'm sure. But anyways, with Donald, who you're talking about, he he has a good bot, but he doesn't seem to win as much as he used to. Like he used to be one of the top
Yeah.
winners, but the young guys
Hmm.
are really coming in with all these new ideas, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of weapons that a lot of people basically, yeah, the newer people coming in, like they're aiming for these veterans, like,
Yeah,
and they're building their bots in order to take down those bots.
yeah,
And so yeah, he hasn't done a lot of winning, but he's still just one of my favorite drivers,
yeah.
truck guys in the game. He's really good.
Interesting. So my
But
my favorite type of bot is the vertical spinner. I really
mm,
like either the drums or the one where it's got just a disc that's in the middle.
mm,
Those seem to be uh, have the ability to be some of the most destructive because they're just grinding away at their opponent.
yeah.
Unfortunately, what that ends up turning into is a lot of them don't end up being that great. Like one of my favorite looks is Minotaur. I
Oh
think
yeah.
it looks really
Hmm.
cool, and he's got his wheels protected and all this stuff. But there's something about it that something always messes up, and he doesn't end up finishing.
Yeah, he's one of the kind of veteran players too,
Yeah.
and yeah, he did really good. But yeah, this past few seasons, they've been having a lot of trouble with their
Yeah.
bot.
So there's one that's similar to him. That's Copperhead. I like him a lot,
Oh yeah,
and he does really well. He's a good driver, or the guy that drives him, whatever. And of course, the in game that won the whole thing last year. They're
oh
from
yeah,
New Zealand, I believe, right?
mm-hmm.
Their bot is one of the lowest to the ground,
Yeah,
especially with being a vertical spinner weapon.
mm-hmm.
And that really helps. Like there's barely any air underneath that robot,
Oh yeah,
so nothing can really get under it to flip it over, right?
yeah. And we didn't really talk about this necessarily
Yeah,
yet or anything, but like the battle box itself, I mean, they have kind of obstacles almost
yeah,
within them. On the sides, they have what they call screws, which are basically screws that rotate that you try and push the other bot into, and it kind of messes them up or gets caught up on the screws. And then they have what they call kill saws in the ground
yeah.
that at a certain point in time during the match, the kill saws will come up and basically as a buzz saw or whatever, which I don't think it has like really sharp blades on them, but
I
it comes up and like
yeah,
hits them enough. Like the kill saws did a lot more in past years
yeah,
than they have recently. They'll come up and they'll maybe hit them here and there, but the problem with the kill saws I see was with like in-game stuff like that, where they have the almost the wedges in the front that are kind of pointy,
mm-hmm.
almost like a spike or whatever. They'll get caught on the opening to the kill
Yes,
saws
yes.
because they're so low to the ground. They
Right.
just go right in there and they'll get stuck.
Well, you'll see them all of a sudden. They'll just go boom. They'll kind of jump up into the air, and you're like, "What happened?" They just get caught on
Yeah.
the ground, and part of the problem too is there are all of these great hits where these blades end up hitting the floor and creating these huge juts or
Oh
into
yeah,
the
divots
ground
and stuff.
divots.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and stuff will get caught in it, and they'll it's just over time, and they can't do anything about it. There's nothing they can do
Mm.
in a season, which we didn't talk about this, but this season was recorded in September, within a week or less. Like it was almost like a weekend, I think. It's really not long. I actually looked at buying tickets for it because I was like, I really want to go to this, and it was in Las Vegas, and it may have been a week, but they do all this really quickly and then make it into a 8 or 9 week show, which is keeps
hmm
it interesting. I'm fine with that, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no way they could just go and fix the floor, so it's going to
Oh
be
no.
those
Yeah.
issues. But they changed up the floor a little bit this year, so that they've we
hmm
mentioned the screws and the saws, and along the walls they have these kind of rough areas that stick out, some texture,
hmm
some metal pieces, and that's always been there, so you could ram people against it. But then on one side, they've kind of made this platform that sticks out quite a ways, right? And it's
Yeah.
weird because it creates this tight corner, kind
hmm
of a boxed in corner, and if you can get somebody stuck in there, and it's hard to get out, right? You really put
Yes.
somebody in the corner, and
hmm
makes it interesting.
Yeah. They call it the upper deck,
Yeah, the upper deck,
which
right?
is it's a fun term for it.
Yeah,
But yeah, basically, like they have two screws on the front of it, and so a lot of people this season are trying to get their opponent onto the upper deck to flick them up there, and
right.
I guess like that gets some points for that more and stuff like that, and trying to
Yeah,
get them stuck up there.
yeah,
The thing I've seen with the upper deck is the full body spinners. We haven't really talked about this. The full body spinners
yeah.
are like the whole robot just spins.
So it's like a
Like
platter almost that
it's a
spins.
big horizontal spinner that's just like a plate or whatever platter that just spins.
Shield.
Um, yeah, like a shield. And really with those, you want to keep them away from the walls
Yeah,
because if they hit the wall, they're going to go bouncing, shooting across the thing, and probably damage
right.
themselves. This has made more wall space
Yeah,
for them to hit,
there's more
and
places to
it
hit. Yeah.
yeah, seems a lot harder for
Hmm.
them to kind of manage themselves within the
Yeah.
space. So it's definitely seems detrimental to them.
They, which I'm so glad they did something. I never would have imagined that would be something they would do, but they needed to keep people interested and not just be okay. It's more robot fighting, right? You had to
hmm
change something about it. Either you add more combatants, which they do. At the end of the season, they'll have a big kind of like a big Royal Rumble, in there.
Yeah.
But you don't want to do that all the time, and you don't want to add more weapons or things like that, because they do have these big sledgehammers too that you can you can hit with a button. Like each side has their own hammers, so if your opponent gets near your hammer, you can slam down on them with the hammer. So so anyways, they added this platform. I think the idea of the platform is you can send somebody right where the screws are and then up onto the platform, and then if they try to get down, most of them when they try to get down are going to flip over and be stuck or something. They're going to get hurt with the screws or something like that. So but the two that have gone up there, that's been the end of them. So something happens when they go up there. But you mentioned the vertical spinner that looks kind of like a shield, and there's one his name is the Shredderator, Captain Shredderator.
Captain Shredderator. Basically looks like Captain America's shield.
Yeah. And he never wins, right? And he's already won this season. So
against Tombstone.
Yeah. Yes.
Of all places.
That was the craziest thing.
Yeah. The moment they said that was going to be a match, it was Captain Shredderator versus Tombstone. I was like, oh, Tombstone's just going to wreck them. Like they never win. They're just like they're going to be like one hit and they're going to be gone.
Right.
But yeah, that match for some reason, like I said, Tombstone just they did themselves in somehow, and they get caught fire.
They caught fire, yeah. I think what happens, and they get to test in their little test room, or what do they call that? The test box, I guess. It's outside, and there's been some funny things that have happened out there with some of these bigger bots that have these huge blades or whatever. But they get to test there, but to really be in a battle, you don't know what's going to happen until you do it, right?
Yeah.
And if this is the first time they've been in a battle in a long time, they may be trying new things, new kind of battery, new blade or whatever, and the first ones are usually not good for the people that are really trying to do something new, right? They're trying to be better.
Yeah.
Like Tombstone's just trying. He's still getting far into the tournament, but he's not winning, right? So he's like, I got to try something new, and of course, whatever it was probably was part of why he didn't do well, But
it actually
he'll bounce back.
Yeah, but I mean, Captain Shredder, I think is actually a good matchup to him because of the height that Tombstone's spinner was against Shredderator. It seemed like the blade was kind of hitting it, and Shredder has like an angle, and it seemed like kind of hit it and it would skim upward, so it wasn't quite getting the full hit on it. It was actually a good matchup, surprisingly.
It was surprising. So, so the first week, let's talk a little bit about the first week matches. I'll hopefully we can remember what all happened, but the first match was Sawblaze versus Minotaur, and I think Sawblaze won that one, right? So Sawblaze is a crusher type, I guess, is what they call it.
It has like a hammer with a saw on it.
Yeah.
Basically. And this was the week of fire.
Yeah.
Last week was the week of fire. Like everything seemed to be catching fire or shooting fire, just fire everywhere.
Yeah. So Sawblaze is the type of robot I want to like because it looks cool because it has this arm that has a spinning blade on it, and you're like, that thing should be really good because it can just chomp down and cut into things, and it does pretty well. Like they get pretty far. I think it just can't go really fast when you want it to be super powerful. So, but
it comes down hard, and that's what happened in this match. Is like they hit Minotaur like a couple really good hits.
Yeah.
And that dislodged something, and it caused it to catch fire. And basically, like Minotaur went the whole match.
Yeah.
Like they didn't get a knockout, but they were on fire the whole time.
Yeah.
Like inside, everything was burning, but it still kept moving.
Yeah.
That was crazy to me.
Yeah, and again, some of the bots have fire as a weapon, so it's funny how sometimes they'll shoot the flames, and it doesn't really seem to affect the bots too much. And a lot of the components are metal, but the wheels are often rubber, right? And you think, oh, these are gonna burn, but they don't seem to burn.
It's basically they're trying to get that fire inside,
right?
So like burn the wiring, kind of melt stuff in there. Yeah. But a lot of these bots are built so like just tight, compact in there that you can't necessarily get in there. So I think that's where Sawblaze is good because it has the hammer
Yeah.
try and break in, but then it has the fire to shoot when it does break in.
Right.
So
Yeah.
pretty good.
It's good. I'm looking through here. I don't want to go through every one of the fights. We talked about Captain Shredderator and Tombstone. That was a good battle. Of course, Endgame and Hydra. So Hydra again was the villain from last year, really, that everybody didn't. He thought he was the man. And his bot is a flipper. So the flipper gets underneath the robot and has an arm that just kind of springs and flips the bot into the air. And usually he does flip them really high, and it can be very deadly. But he had some problems and ended up losing to Endgame, which is the returning champ. So
yeah, he got one flip in, and then that was kind of it. It kind of broke and it started smoking, and Endgame won by knockout.
Yeah.
But the one of the other matches that I liked was again because of fire. It was free shipping and blacksmith.
Okay.
Which blacksmith has a hammer and free shipping has like a lifter, but they both like shoot fire.
Yeah.
And at one point, it just like this giant fireball was just going around the ring because both of them were just together, just shooting fire.
Yeah.
And they were just both engulfed in flame.
Yeah.
Just moving around. It was crazy. It was so fun.
It was crazy. Last year there was a huge explosion. I remember texting you like, "Did you see that?"
Yes.
I don't remember who it was, but it was incredible.
Yeah,
I would make a better story, but
it was one of the ones that shot fire, and basically, the other one managed to hit their like whatever was producing the fire with the gasoline stuff. That basically managed to hit that and break it open.
Yes.
I guess, and it's just everything just caught fire and just like you could like see the wave of the explosion come off of this thing.
Yeah.
And just like the windows rattle and just like everybody that was outside the ring just shoot back really quickly. Because that was nuts.
Yeah, so just knowing that could happen makes you want to watch it. Every time you're like, there could be an explosion, something could fly against the window. But this one had. So we've watched the YouTube exclusive, Deadlift versus Jackpot, and Jackpot is a robot that a guy that works in Las Vegas, right? He's from Las Vegas, and he was kind of a newbie, right, last year and did pretty well. Like his weapon is kind of big. It's not, I don't want to say huge because that's the name of another robot, but it spins pretty well, and he ended up winning that one against a robot that's been around for a bit longer. But he was a flipper. Deadlift. So, deadlift.
Yeah.
So. But this week I think was even better. We just watched it tonight. It comes on Thursday, so if you've never watched BattleBots, about said Robot Wars, BattleBots, then if you have Discovery Channel or have, I think you can even watch this for free on Discovery's app. So if you have it on a smart TV or something like that, you have to watch commercials and things like that. But if you have the Discovery Plus app, you can watch it without commercials and watch it anytime you want to. On the day it is released, so you don't have to wait till 8 o'clock at night. You can watch it that morning.
Yeah, I love that. We've had Discovery Plus for a bit now, and I've really liked that because no commercials, and it drops like that morning, so you can just watch it whenever you want to. It's really good.
Yeah, it's good. So we watched it today, and there were some good battles today. So Mad Catter we talked about earlier, who he had a win against Yeti, but Mad Catter's the one that kind of has the wrestling persona.
Yeah, and Yeti's like a veteran. They came out of retirement, and they've kind of totally revamped their bot, and so this was the really first match with this new bot and everything. So they were having some trouble with it. And Mad Catter Mad Catter did get flipped, I believe, one time big in the air, but then it came back with a vengeance and just really just like knocked Yeti all around, and came out with a knockout.
Yeah, it's really a lot has to do with the driving. And the weapons. I mean, you have to have a good weapon and durability, of course. But if you're a good driver, you can get away from some of these hits. Sometimes you're like, come on, just hit them. But they're so good that they can avoid some of these hits.
Yeah, there's one I haven't seen in a bit called Duck. And it doesn't really have a weapon per se. Like
it's a flipper.
It's a flipper, but I've never seen it actually flip anything. Basically, it is built to be durable. It's
Yeah.
basically built to outlast these things. Where like some of these big heavy hitters, if they do
Yeah.
too much hitting, they'll hurt themselves, and it's built to withstand all that. And it's a nice it's an underduck, I guess.
So
What do you call
yeah, Duck actually has a new look this year. I don't know if you've looked at
it?
any of the
Oh
pictures,
no.
but it's so instead before it had these arms on the sides, and in the middle it had the duck bill, and that's what it used as
Mm-hmm.
its flipper, right? And it was kind of pointed. Now it doesn't have the arms. It's almost like they cut out a section in the middle, and they have this flat ramp, and I haven't seen it in action yet. I just saw pictures. You can go to battlebots.com and look at the current season, and you'll see them. But it looks like it's just a different kind of flipper that again doesn't have the arms like a traditional flipper. It's just kind of like in the middle. So I'm curious how that's going to work. There was
Interesting.
another bot this year, Blip. Was it Blip that has the new style
Mm-hmm.
of a flipper?
Yeah,
It's a wedge
kind of
flipper.
it's basically like a what they described it was like a trebuchet,
Yeah.
where it has like a rope inside of it that twists and builds up the energy by
Yeah.
pulling it back and then releases and then it flips it. To me, with that one, it's cool and I like that they're thinking outside the
Yeah.
box and everything, but it just seems like in between flips, it seems to take a while.
Yeah.
Like they can't just like flip and then flip again.
Right.
Bronco is a really good flipper
Yeah.
from the past, and they can flip. They only have so many flips, but they can almost do it like one after another if they wanted to. But this one, it seems to they have some build up
Yeah.
before they could flip.
Yeah.
But
And
they
that's
did good though.
yeah, they
They
did.
won. Of course, they were against Rusty.
Right.
Uh,
So
when we're yeah, when we were talking about bots at like $50,000 or whatever,
yeah.
Rusty is a bot that this guy made on his family's farm
Yeah.
out of just junk that he found. So
Yeah.
like it's just like a few $1,000s basically. It has like a popcorn bowl, like a head. Like
Yeah.
it almost has like a face, and it's got like a little hammer thing on the front of it.
Yeah.
And a mailbox I think is somewhere attached to it.
It seems like it.
Uh, it's he's kind of become a fan favorite just because
Right.
he's definitely an underdog. Like he's just coming
Yeah.
in on his own, built this thing on his own, and it seems to be pretty durable for the most part.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just yeah, I don't think I don't know if he's won anything though. He may I don't
I don't
feel like
remember,
he
but
has.
yeah, you want him to win though, because he's the underdog, and
Hmm.
he's using parts he found instead of
Yeah.
spending all this money. And I mean, I'm surely to goodness he's getting some help from some sponsors, at least this year, especially
Well,
because.
hopefully this year he did.
But it still hasn't changed much, and I mean, why
Uh-uh.
change? I mean, and, he probably just enjoys doing it, so it's
Yeah,
fun.
it
But
seems like he's just having a good time, winning or
yeah,
losing. He's just like, I'm here. He like admires all the other builders and he just wants to be there.
yeah. So another robot, you're talking about how Blip, it takes him a while to build up that energy. Tantrum is kind of similar. It's an interesting bot
Hmm.
in that it's a vertical spinner, but it also punches. So this
Yeah.
one, it's like the spinner in the middle slides to the back, and it spins and builds up energy, and then he can push a button and it can hit and it can hurt when it's spinning, but he can hit a button that'll
Hmm.
send that weapon forward and punch the
Yes.
other robot, which is pretty cool, but it is slow again,
Hmm. Yeah, and like they showed up maybe a few seasons ago,
Yeah,
and like they weren't doing well at all when they first showed up. They had a lot of
yeah,
problems with that bot because I mean, I'm sure it's very complicated,
yeah,
everything going on to get that to work right. But then, like starting last season, they started doing really well.
yeah,
And yeah, they faced against Malice tonight, and yeah, they took Malice down. Like basically, they did one hit at the beginning and took out their weapon,
yeah,
which is crazy.
yeah. And then there was another spinner, Bloodsport, that battled tonight, and I like Bloodsport. He's really low to the ground, has a spinner on the top. He has one of those big tubes on the top, and my wife says he looks like a snork. If you remember the cartoon.
Yeah.
But it helps him self-right. So that's one thing we didn't talk about is a lot of it's a lot of these robots will end up flipping over because a lot of the weapons cause you to flip over, and a lot of them will include a mechanism to self-right, and it could be just a lever that pushes it over, and then they use their wheels along with that. But Bloodsport has this big tube that's kind of curved, and if he gets flipped over, he can use his blade and his that curved piece to kind of turn it and flip over, usually. But he didn't tonight.
No, he could. That's mostly because he went up against Whiplash. And Whiplash they've been around a while. It started with a father, I think, and then he handed it off to basically his two sons to drive Matt Vasquez?
Matty Vasquez.
Matty Vasquez. He's like the best driver in the game.
Yes.
Like he's amazing, like how he can maneuver in the ring. And that's basically what he did. He pushed him around and drove circles around him, and he got him up on the upper deck. Yeah. And that's where he got stuck.
He got stuck up there, so he made it happen. So I'll be curious to see the special YouTube episode that'll be on Sunday. Again, there's a way you can pay for them, but I'm not gonna pay extra. Sorry, BattleBots. I'm not doing that. But it'll be interesting to see. Sub-Zero is a good flipper as well, I believe, if I remember correctly, and then Shatter is a crusher that has a pretty cool design on it, like these almost like a mosaic style armor or whatever.
Yeah, which are meant to come off. Basically, they're meant to take damage and then fall off.
Yeah.
And Sub-Zero, I mean, it's a Mortal Kombat.
That's right. It will freeze. No. One of the things they've done is they sell all kinds of merchandise, right? But they also sell toys. I don't know if you've ever seen the toys. They sell them at Target.
Yeah.
So they're pretty cool. So Hexbug makes these, and they've made them to look just like the popular robots. So they're not all the robots, but they're the top ones, right? So there's a Tombstone, and I think there's a Witch Doctor, which didn't talk about Witch Doctor, but it's another vertical spinner in the front, or drum, and then not drum, spinner, and looks like it has a rib cage on the back of it, right? It's pretty cool. It's self-rider.
Witch Doctor's great.
But they make these cool robots. I'm curious. They're about $70 for a pair of them. You can buy the arena, which is super interesting. I don't know how interactive it is, but you can buy this big box basically to fight them in, and it's like $120, for that.
Wow. So
it's neat, but we've had some of the Hexbug toys, and they're fun for a little bit. Then it's just like, okay.
Well, I remember quite a while ago they had BattleBots toys before these, but it was more of a like build your own, where they had like different parts, and then you could put them together and then battle them together.
Cool. Yeah.
So it had like a spinner or a hammer or something. You piece it together, and then you battle them. I don't think they did well, but I think the was it Sawblaze?
Yeah.
Had their little toy. There's like a button that each player hits before the match starts, and he used that to hit the button with this last week.
That's cool. Yeah, the ready button. So they'll say red team ready, blue team ready. But yeah, they've also tried to make video games. That was the thing I was really interested in. Is like, is there a video game for BattleBots? And so one game that's kids play is called Roblox, and Roblox is a kind of a sandbox game where you can make other games, right? And it's pretty cool. But you can there are some BattleBots like games. I don't know if they call them BattleBots, but it's basically BattleBots, and they have some of the characters, or not characters, but the robots there that they have in the show, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work well. Anyways, I tried playing it one time and I was like, this is terrible. But they did actually make a couple of video games, or at least one that was called BattleBots. Another one may have been like Robot Wars or something like that, but it didn't do too well, so I haven't tried it out, but I always thought that would be fun. A couple of years ago, I made some Lego BattleBots. So my son has tons of Lego, and we made a tombstone like one and some other like a vertical spinner, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, they don't move by themselves, but you can move them around with your hands. So that was kind of fun.
Cool.
But anyways, so it just started. We've just got a few more, several weeks hopefully of BattleBots.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many episodes they usually do. It's probably like 8 or something. I don't know, but
yeah. I mean, it'll be a few episodes. Last year they also did another one where Bounty Hunters, BattleBots Bounty Hunters, and they did a little bit different to where I guess since like COVID and everything, and they had all these people there, they're just like, well, let's do something else too, since we've all quarantined and we're all here. They basically like picked like one of the veterans, like Bronco or whatever, and the newcomers battled each other for the right to face them.
Yeah.
They called it bounty hunting because they were going after the big guys or whatever. And it was fun. It's on Discovery Plus as well. That was just like a few episodes, but it's still like robots fighting robots.
Right.
So.
Yeah, they were putting out a lot of content last year, and probably because they wanted to put out more fights and just to have content, and get people interested. And so that was a lot of fun to watch. I hope they do something like that this year. They usually too at the end of the season before they have the championship, they have what they usually call Desperados, I think is what they call it, but it's where the kind of a last chance, and they put them all, or a bunch of them at least, into the ring and or the box, and see who comes out on top, I guess. But it's ones that have lost a bunch and they're kind of limping along usually, because it's kind of like demolition derby, so at that point. But anyways, it's a lot of fun to watch. So if you haven't watched it, again, it comes on Thursdays on Discovery Plus, and I can't wait to watch more. Anything else, Chris?
No, I believe that covers it.
Awesome.
Ready for some more robot battles.
More robot battles, yes. So next week we'll be back. We'll be talking probably about Ryan's Disney trip. So a week of I am Disney. We are starting our new kind of format that we're doing, where last week we had I am Marvel, and this week we're kind of making this work into iamLegend, which will normally be about some sort of legend that's happened, like a what do you call it, cryptic, or some kind of mystery or things like that, or ghost hunting or something. So and then again we'll have the I am Disney, and I believe is there one more?
Marvel, Star
Disney,
Wars.
Star Wars. So I'm Star Wars.
Okay.
So we'll have a Star Wars episode soon, and talk that. So again, this has been episode 222. Thank you for listening, and thank you to everyone watching the live stream or watching this on YouTube later. Be sure to check us out on social media. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, and Facebook as iamGEEK Show, all in one word. Be sure to look for Ryan this weekend on Instagram. I think it's on Sunday when he's in Disneyland. Again, to show off his new Kyber crystal for the iamGEEK shop on Etsy. But you can also join us on Facebook. Our group is called iamGEEK-IAM Group, and we talk about things on the show, or just talk about general geeky things that come up during the week. And if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe and comment. Let us know how we did. What do you think of the show? And if you watch BattleBots, tell us what your favorite bot is. But you can listen to this and all of our episodes wherever you listen to podcasts, be it Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever. And if you want to support the show by wearing our merch, you can go to shop.spreadshirt.com/iamGEEK, and we have some items there. And if you can't remember any of this, you can check out our website at iamgeekshow.com, and we've got links to all of that there. And thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week with an I Am Disney episode, again, to talk about Ryan's trip to Disney. Have a great week. Bye-bye. All right. Well, that's the show. If you're on YouTube and Facebook, thanks for watching. I think we had a couple people every once in a while there, but that was fun. Surprised we didn't see some of our normal people, but
yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they got things they're doing.
They're watching Peacemaker. I'm watching Peacemaker tonight.
Yeah. So I watched. I was gonna tell you earlier. I watched Eternals today. I just had it on in the background. I kind of watched it.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay.
It's okay. It felt like a DC movie kind of to me, and
a little bit. It's no spoilers or anything, but like it just kind of is. Like there's a lot of characters it's got to introduce, a lot of history it's got to introduce in like a short amount of time. And like it has some twists, I guess, to it, but like I don't know. For me, it's like it's kind of obvious twists, but so it's nothing really big or different. Like it just kind of is.
Yeah. It one thing that I thought was funny, and I was going to ask you about this, I'll ask you now, is Batman in universe, or were they talking about the television show? Did you catch the line about Batman?
Oh, there was something about that, wasn't it? I forget.
Said the guy that's in the Bollywood, I don't remember his name, but he said he has his guy with him, his valet. You know, he said he said this is my valet or whatever. And the guy that's Gilgamesh, right? He said, "Oh, a valet like Alfred is to Batman." And I was like, does that mean Batman is in universe, or does it mean there's the TV show Batman on
the TV and comics probably?
Yeah.
That they've done that like was in Spider-Man as well. And then the Tobey Maguire Aunt May like tells him like you're not Superman, you know, or whatever. Right. So they'll do things like that every now and then. They'll do that in the comics too, where they'll mention like something from the other universe or whatever. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is funny. So like I say, it was fine. I didn't watch it closely, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
If you're gonna watch it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. And so you mentioned Peacemaker though, and I started to watch it, and then immediately because I'm working from home this week because my son got COVID and he's home, and it was the first, I mean, just a little bit. It's F this and that and whatever, you know. I was just like, I guess I can't watch this right now. Which he was in another room, but it still was just loud, and you know. And I was like, I don't need this playing. So.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it's a hard R.
Yeah. Well, yeah. From the description of what it is, I was like, yeah, that's gonna be rough. But we started watching. What you streaming, right? We started watching Yellowstone, which is a big thing, right? So because we have Peacock as part of our Xfinity, so our cable internet, and so we've been watching that. We're on like the third season, and there's 4. There's like they're on the 4th one right now. But have you watched any of Yellowstone? Or
I have not. No, I've heard it's good, but I haven't watched any of it.
So it's rough. Like it's almost like watching Game of Thrones, but it's a Western.
Interesting.
It's or even Sons of Anarchy in some ways. It's very family. It's not a family show, but it's very family. They're very concerned about their families, and will do whatever it takes to take care of their land and their family, which is again Game of Thrones and even Sons of Anarchy, right? And again, the things that happen, which it surprised me, some of the things that do happen, because I always think of Peacock as like this, it's on TV, right? It's just it's NBC owns it or whatever, but it's definitely a premium show. It's very R-rated, TVMA, things, people lose their clothes, and words are said, and people die. Yeah, what happened? But
where'd my clothes go?
But you get past that, and some of it, and it's kind of addicting. You're just like, oh my gosh, I can't quit watching. But it's hard to watch sometimes. Some of the things that happen. But
yeah, we watched what are we streaming? We binged based on what you're binging. Mar of Easttown.
Okay.
It's
I
on
wonder about that.
HBO. It's Kate Winslet, and it's got a boner from WandaVision. I
Yeah.
can't remember
Yeah.
his name. Peters. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really good, and so yeah, we just ended up binging the whole thing in like one day because we just got kind of just enraptured with everything that's going on. But it is very adult. It's very like just like I don't know, it really grips you. Like it murders basically taking place or whatever. So
Yeah.
some of it's very tense and very emotional, but it's done really well.
Hmm. Yeah. I saw that the
I'd
other day.
recommend it.
I was gonna
Hmm.
check it out. We watched all of Cobra Kai. I think I mentioned that last week. I don't
Yeah, we did too.
watched it. So we watched it in a full Sunday. Like we skipped church, and we were. It wasn't like because we wanted to watch Cobra Kai. It just happened to be. We watched the whole thing, like
Sure,
from like
yeah.
9 in the morning till 6 at night, or however long it took.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing with our lives? But it was so good. But now it's
Hmm.
over. Now we gotta wait for
Yeah.
another year, I guess. But
Hmm.
Ryan is watching on Facebook, or he was. Now he's not viewing anymore. He said
Oh,
aloha. So,
wow. Oh, now yeah, he's on YouTube.
oh, he's on YouTube now. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
saying
jump over
aloha. It's
there. He says
6:30
aloha. So,
p.m. here in Hawaii.
oh wow,
So early there.
I know. Well, Ryan, we finished. We're just talking to YouTube and Facebook. Um, so you'll have to go back and watch the at least the beginning of this episode. I think you'll
No,
enjoy
you have
it.
to watch
So.
the whole thing.
So I hope you're having fun there in Hawaii, you and Jennifer. And it takes forever for comments to go through
Hmm.
um,
Yes.
because there's a delay. So we're waiting for Ryan to respond. And I'm trying to think if
Oh,
there's
yeah.
anything
Oh,
else. I mean,
yeah.
that's so pretty much like the things we've been watching the Yellowstone. We'll watch 1 or 2 episodes a night, and sometimes it's like, oh, I gotta watch another one. But it's a long season. We are talking about earlier how the shows aren't very long, um,
Mhm.
but this one has long seasons. It seems like, so that's been good. And they're
Mm.
all an hour long, I think. So it does
Oh,
have
well.
commercials because it's not Peacock Premium that we have. So
Hmm. Gotcha. As I mentioned, we're going to go see Scream this weekend.
nice.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm a big Scream fan. That kind of I wasn't really into watching horror movies or anything, and then Scream came out, and I think I saw it at like a drive-in theater, like the first one. Um, and it was just different. It was good. It kind of it knew itself. So it was campy, but also kind of scary, and just really kind of played all that up. The second one I thought was really good, and it played off of sequels or whatever. Third one was okay-ish. They're starting to hit their like, okay, maybe we need to kind of wrap this up, do something different. And then they did a fourth one. I don't remember much of the fourth one. I think it was okay, but I've heard some good things about this one.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping this will be a
Yeah. It's
return to form.
it's kind of like the Spider-Man movie. They're bringing back all these people.
Yeah, exactly. Be a whole multiverse of Scream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So yes, Ryan, we talked about your new kyber crystal. So if people don't go check
yes.
it out, then I don't know why because we pumped it up. But
Hmm. Yeah, we spent a whole hour just on that, talking about that.
we decided not to
But
talk about
yeah,
BattleBots. We just
yeah. We didn't
teased
really,
it.
yeah, it was just an hour of teasing the Kyber crystal. We never actually said anything about it. It's
Anything
just an
about
hour of teasing.
it.
Basically, we'd say Kyber crystal, eh?
Eh?
Eh? And it was like an hour of that. So it's
Yeah.
good.
Speaking of Star Wars, we watched Rogue One today. I wanted to watch something else because we added a TV in my office here, and so if I'm having to work from home, then I want to watch things. And Charlie had never watched Rogue One. It can be kind of boring and whatever if you're not don't know what understand what's going on as a kid.
Hmm.
But I think he liked it, and he's like, this doesn't look like
Good.
Star Wars or not. When did this come out? I was like, well, it's supposed to be before New Hope, and and he's like, but it looks
Hmm.
newer. I was like, It's just,
it is.
It was made later, but it's. But and then I said you're gonna have to watch to the end, and then we're gonna start New Hope, and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, and we watched it, and he wasn't really amazed, but I was. I was like, this is the because it's one of my favorites, and I know
it's definitely
others.
one of mine.
Yeah,
it was done really well.
Yeah. So
I did watch Boba Fett again.
Did you?
It's
I started to rewatch it because I wanted to see if I liked it better the second time.
It has fun stuff in it, but it just it feels like it's just constantly building things.
Yeah.
Like where the Mandalorian was almost like the episode was encapsulated on its own, but then had an overall arcing theme. This one just has the overall arcing plot.
Yeah.
And each episode doesn't necessarily begin or end. It just kind of goes, and then you're like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Just need to. So I think this one would have benefited if they dropped it all at once, but I don't know.
Yeah, there is a lot of build up and rehashing, not rehashing, but sorry, I've got hair in my mouth. Talking about the past, flashbacks, and it's just like, okay, here's another one, and apparently what happened is that everybody said, we want to know Boba Fett's story, what happened to Boba Fett between here and there, and so that's what this is. and
that's what you're getting. That's what you asked for.
It's like, it's really not, I mean, it is about what's happening after he takes over Jabba's palace, right? But it's it's still too much of this other stuff. But then the bike thing. Sorry if you haven't watched it yet, but that's your problem. But the bikes. Yeah, the bikes. I expected them to be speeder bikes or whatever, and they were like these scooters that didn't have wheels.
It's like suddenly we're in Back to the Future a little bit. And true, it was a Robert Rodriguez episode, and to me it's like, oh, we're in Spy Kids now. Some of the stuff that was going on, but it's just I was expecting a car to drive into the back of a manure truck.
Yeah, that's right.
And it kind of happened, but not exactly. But it was a weird, almost Back to the Future crossover
that's
chase.
True. That is so true. But it was really slow. That was weird to me. Some shots it looked really slow, and then other shots it looked like they were going fast. And I was like, what is going on? But I just didn't get those kids. I mean, the kids were cool. Like the idea of them, they stole droid parts and they put them onto their bodies. I'm like, that's kind of cool because they had these droid arms or whatever. But
it's a good idea, but their look just didn't quite work. And I think it's mostly around the bikes. The bikes were just way too shiny for Tatooine.
Yeah,
it just but I don't know. It had some fun stuff with the Rancor and some things
Danny
like
Trejo.
that. But Danny Trejo, you can't go wrong with Danny Trejo. Again, it's a Robert Rodriguez directed episode, so Danny Trejo is going to be in there, and then the guy from Office Space, he's in there. Yeah, he's always fun to watch.
He did really great. Yeah. So Ryan said, "Did you see the Mandalorian character in the background?" I don't.
Yes, it's very quick in the background. It's the woman that basically fixes up Mando's ship every time he comes into Tatooine. She's really small in the background, walking with the two pop-up droids behind her.
Nice. Yeah.
So.
Well.
So yeah, it's not bad. It's just I don't know. I feel like it needs to pick up.
Yeah. And maybe it will after this. I think they've got to stop going back in time, and telling us how tough he is and all this stuff. And I
feel like that should have been one episode.
Yeah, I thought when they said it was bikers or a biker gang, I thought it was going to be Tusken Raiders or something, with the way they were talking, and I guess that's what they want you to think, whatever it was. That's who was still in the water or whatever. But I don't know. This is probably my least favorite. There's always one bad episode of all these shows, right? Of one that we all hate or something. This is the one for me. Like I said, it had some cool parts. The Hutts coming in and the Wookiee, and all that. But and the Rancor, like you said, but and the fight and all that. But I thought maybe Chewie was going to be the. I guess we better end here. But not Chewie. The Wookiee. Not Chewie. The Wookiee was going to be the monster in the pit. That's how.
Yeah, I thought they would keep him in there too, but yeah, they didn't.
Yeah.
Oh well.
We'll have a Rancor, so that'll be good, I guess, if he wants to be a tyrant. All right. Well, we'll end it here. Ryan, if you're still on, have a good time stargazing. And anybody else that's watching, thanks for watching. If you're watching this later, we appreciate it. And again, if you can like and subscribe, we appreciate that too. Any comments? And we will be back next week. So have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you real soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.